What's up everyone, I hope you had a good 3-day weekend. We are now in our first trading day of the week, and we're seeing Bitcoin cool off a bit. We're also seeing the miners pull back. I think it's a great opportunity to start adding, knowing that we may pull back a little bit more. And despite potentially pulling back a little more on the short term, when looking from the end of 2024, the end of 2025, this pullback, however severe it may turn out to be, is just going to be a blip on the radar. And looking back, this will have been another buying opportunity. Now in this video, I want to talk about Cleanspark. They do have some recent news, and we're also going to look at the chart for both Cleanspark and Bitcoin. Let's get started. Now, if you guys like these videos, you know what to do. And first off, let's look at what Bitcoin's doing. Now, some of the miners are down double digits. Bitcoin's down a little over 1%. Bitcoin literally just hit 52-week highs only a few days ago. And what I'm watching right now on Bitcoin is this sideways channel here. I think a break under the psychological 50,000 will bring us lower. And if we can break $53,000, we're going to continue creating 52-week highs. Bitcoin is still very bullish. We're facing an ascending 50 and 200 MA. They are both pointing up, and the longer term trend is still very much intact. I also want to show you guys another pattern. I'm not sure how the market's going to react to it, if at all, but we also have this broadening wedge. We're utilizing this ascending support here that we've utilized since October. Haven't seen this break, and on the resistance, we've been following this as well. We are now at this resistance line. Maybe we'll start pulling back, start retracing a bit, giving us another potential buy for Bitcoin under 50,000. It is still possible. But with all this buying pressure, with us only under 2 months away from the halving, with all these ETFs loading up, I do think the likelihood of seeing Bitcoin under 40,000 is very, very slim. And I know a lot of people are calling out, we're due to pull back. Before the last halving, we saw a big pullback. This was the 2020 pandemic. Bitcoin, along with the stock market, saw a sharp drop, followed by a quick recovery. If we did see something similar, it would be nothing more than a great buying opportunity to load up on some cheap Bitcoin. I personally don't think this halving is going to copy the 2020 halving. I think it's going to be a lot more similar to the 2016 halving, and I would definitely welcome a drop similar to the 2020 halving cycle, but I doubt we're going to see it, at least to that extent. Now, if we do happen to break this sideways channel here, if we break support and start heading down, I do think there's a pretty good likelihood we can see 48,000 again, and that would be a great chance to add some Bitcoin. But you know, I think there's no need to worry about Bitcoin right now. We're going to continue to see this price go up. We're only under 2 months now from the halving, and in only a matter of less than 4 weeks, these spot Bitcoin ETF providers now hold over 100,000 Bitcoin in their funds. Something that took MicroStrategy, for example, about 4 years to do. These ETFs have done in literally under a month. So we are going to continue to see huge buying pressure for Bitcoin, but it isn't just going to go straight up, create new 52-week highs every single day. We are going to see some pullbacks along the way, and any of these pullbacks, looking back, will be seen as buying opportunities. Now, I also want to talk about Cleanspark, and this news dropped a couple of days ago, but I haven't covered it yet, so I apologize if you guys have already seen this. But for those of you that haven't, I will leave it down below if you want to read it yourself. But Cleanspark now exceeded their 14 exahash as the Sandersville expansion comes online. And Cleanspark has now increased their hash rate 40% since the energization of this expansion began last week, meaning they were essentially at 10 exahash before this expansion. And Zach Bradford says, I believe we have likely set an industry record for speed of machine deployment, thanks to the extraordinary grit and resolve exhibited by our teams and partners in Sandersville. Not only are we bringing economic development to the community, but we also provide an important grid service because our load is interruptible and can be returned to the community at a moment's notice as we work in partnership with the utility and power providers to help continue Georgia's legacy of abundant and resilient energy. Also, we have a little Mississippi update. I'm also pleased to report that our teams have already been deployed to Mississippi to begin transitioning these sites into the Cleanspark portfolio. We look forward to sharing additional details about our most recent acquisitions in the coming weeks. And it's just a matter of time until we see those Mississippi sites energized. They are turnkey, and they were from a previous Bitcoin miner. So that should translate to a quick increase from this 14 exahash. That's already quite impressive considering where they were only a few weeks ago. Now, looking at Cleanspark on the chart, seems like we're topping out a bit here. Many of the miners, Cleanspark included, was quite overbought on the daily and weekly. But I got a question for you guys. How likely do you think it is we're gonna head all the way down towards 12 to 10 to fill this gap here? That would definitely be a pretty drastic move down, roughly a 30 to 40% move down. And while it is definitely possible, one thing to realize with this gap is this was a gap up, a breakaway gap up on good earnings with high volume. And these types of gap ups aren't as likely to fill as a common gap that isn't made on huge earnings beat, that isn't made on huge volume. But whether or not we fill this gap down here, whether or not we head all the way down to 12 and 10, I do think Cleanspark is a buy on the potential way down there. No, I wouldn't wait until 12 to 10 to add. I would be adding in the mid-teens. And for those that are less patient, I still think now is a good time to add. This is a pretty small retrace from our recent high, roughly 15 to 18%, but at least you wouldn't be buying the tippy top. Although I do think we're coming down a bit more, but we don't necessarily have to come down more. The market could just suddenly push this back up. So if you want to take advantage and buy here, that's understandable. If you want to be a little more patient and wait until we get more towards that gap, that's understandable too. And if you don't want to worry about all that and you want to just simply DCA, I think that's a great way to go as well. But it did look like a lot of these miners were topping out. Many were becoming overbought on the weekly, overbought on the daily, and typically you see some retracement after something like that. You'll see here that Cleanspark had its trend. We broke trend. It tried to hold this 1650 area as support. And I'd assume our next level to test, see how it holds as a support, would be this 15 area. But you know, to me, Cleanspark is one of the best looking miners. They're positioning themselves amazingly in anticipation of the halving. They have the best all-in cost to mine coin. They're a profitable miner as of their last earnings. And you know, the halving is only under 2 months away. Time is just flying by. Before you know it, we will be at the halving. Before you know it, Bitcoin's rewards will be cut and the incoming Bitcoin supply will be cut in half. This is going to create a supply shock and Bitcoin's price is going to see all-time highs in just a matter of time. But let me know what you guys think about Bitcoin and Cleanspark right now. Are there some other miners you're loading up on? And how low do you think Cleanspark will head down to? I'm personally on the fence if we're going to see that gap fill down towards 12. That may be a little bit overly optimistic, but I also think it's not a bad idea to be open to that possibility and try to prepare for it. But thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.